Hello and welcome to the Back to the TARDIS podcast, the podcast where we take a look at every single episode of the 2005 revival of BBC's Doctor Who. I'm Jeff.
I am Aurora.
And I'm Ashter.
And this week we are discussing series 9 episodes 5 and 6, The Girl Who Died by Jamie Matheson and Stephen Moffat, and The Woman Who Lived by Catherine Tregenna. And we're restarting because like 15 minutes into recording this, I realized that Audacity had fucking crashed without telling me, and we lost the whole thing. So, fuck. Okay. All right. Okay. Yeah. So this is a kind of collection of two somewhat standalone but connected stories, which revolve around a Shielder played by Maisie Williams, a woman who becomes immortal after a run-in with the Doctor. You know, like the first part I think is really good, really funny. Yeah, the first part I think works really well. It's got a lot of comedy. It's got some funny Vikings. It's got like an almost Monty Python bit of this guy pretending to be Odin speaking to the Vikings from the sky. And then the second part kind of wanders around a bit, has some interesting ideas, but doesn't necessarily implement them the best. And overall, I don't think is quite as good.
Yeah, and I would roughly agree. I do think that the first episode is really good, in my opinion. And I don't think the second episode is too bad. I think it just kind of suffers in the back half because the sort of central conflict in the episode just kind of like doesn't go anywhere and just sort of introduces a villain to make it more urgent, and it's just not very good, that aspect of it anyways.
Mm-hmm.
But I definitely think that the first episode is quite solid, despite the fact that the antagonists aren't like the most compelling. I think that's fine.
Yeah.
They just need to sort of be like a generic, we're bad guys and we're coming to get you, because it's more sort of a story about, first
Yar, except we're not pirates.
Yeah, it's more sort of a story about the Doctor like getting a group into shape. It's a very standard sort of base under siege episode.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, very classic story. And I think for that reason, I would agree. I think the first half is stronger because even though it's I suppose it's technically simpler, it is still able to pull that off, where the second half, it feels like the first half, especially with like the Lady Me characterization catching up, it's like a lot more darker, and then it turns into, hey, there's a cat alien and this guy who tells jokes to stop people from killing him, and I'm just like, these are two different episodes. But yeah,
and the Doctor won't take Ishildur along, but doesn't elaborate on his reasons for why, even though I think his reasons do make sense. They just kind of like hang there and badly communicate it because otherwise the episode doesn't work.
Yeah, so this is a very interesting story to cover because it's a very different beast, I would say, than almost any two-parter that we've covered in the Moffat era or RTD. Yeah.
So we do get good comedy Viking stuff in the first bit. Doctor's talk no jutsu completely failing him. And then when they get to the Viking ship and the plot is revealed, honestly, fairly early on in the episode, so the rest of it can be a kind of Seven Samurai-esque homage. I went into the group chat and commented, I did not expect the plot here was alien masquerading as Odin gathers all the buffest men in the land to extract their boy juice, but I guess it is.
There's a lot of transmasculinity in both of these episodes, actually.
Yeah. I commented Lady Me with the voice training queer icon.
Yep. Still better use of her than in Game of Thrones and in New Mutants. Yes, for listeners, I did reuse that joke twice. Fuck you, it's still good and true.
Technically 3 times because you said it during the failed first attempt at recording this fucking episode.
Exactly. No, yeah, it's
We
again,
lost that shit like Me lost her memories of her past.
Plural icon as well. Repetitive ego death. We love to see it. Yeah, this episode, again, works fairly solidly. I would say the overall arc is still aggressively mid, even without the hybrid bullshit and where we'll see Lady Me pop up again. I do think it's funny that, and Star Trek does this all the time too, by the way, where it's like, here's this incredible alien force, the Mire, that are like some of the best warriors that I don't think, I'm pretty sure they're not classic villains. I'm pretty sure that's not a reference.
No, they're not.
And they also have this like chip inside them, or like this technology that will like repair them from battle at like all cost, you know, can keep you functionally immortal.
Yeah,
as long
it's
as...
like we had the fucking bro moment. What were they? Whatever the fuck the Chula from Empty Child and their nanotech stuff. So it's not like the most out of place, but it's still like, so hang on, you're saying that these guys are just functional. I mean, I guess that's not technically, like, that doesn't technically break canon because we already have plenty of beings that are functionally immortal. It just feels like a little like weird of like, wait, so these guys are able to be functionally immortal, I guess?
Yeah, it just, I don't know, it felt like, again, it felt like very much like narratively like, okay, within this arc we need X to happen, and it's, you know, not caring much where, just like functionally like, oh, we have this alien that can do this, that works for this purpose. Doctor Who does that a lot, and again, so does Star Trek, so does a lot of long-running sci-fi and genre fiction in general, but it's very silly to me that it's like, the idea of like Jack being an immortal, it's just like something that bothers the Doctor fundamentally, and we see the fact that the Doctor is still bothered by immortals come up again, and it's like, bitch, you made her this way. You don't even have the Rose bad wolf excuse that you did last time.
I think it's very funny that they bring up Jack in this episode because it just sort of, I mean, The funny thing with Jack in this context is that Lady Me actually survives a lot longer than Jack, and that's just incredibly funny to me that like a microchip granted more powerful immortality than actual time stuff.
Well, I mean, to be fair, she started chronologically earlier. Like, when Jack got ported back in time, he only got ported back to the 1800s.
Well, yes, but he survived 5 billion years and she survived to the end of the universe.
Well, we don't know when he stopped surviving.
Yes, we do. We saw him die.
Oh, shit. Right, I forgot. Thank you, RTD, for fucking that up.
Yeah, it's a time. If we factor in Face the Raven to Hellbent in this becomes an entirely different conversation and analysis. But yeah, it's very... I suppose I do like the explanation in that, like, whatever Rose did, obviously Jack kept all his memories, whereas with this, whatever...
That time vortex juice hit different.
True. Whatever tech is keeping a Shielder alive, it's just maintaining her body. The fact that her brain is basically like still an adolescent brain and not fully developed means she'll just over time forget shit, and with memories leaving, she becomes different people throughout her life. Which is, again, an interesting concept. There's a lot of interesting stuff with the Ashilder character, and I have vague memories of Maisie Williams being hyped up as like a part of this season, and it's sad that I'm feeling, as of this point, underwhelmed. Like even less, like I'm feeling more underwhelmed right now than I was with like River Song in Series 6, you know? Like
Every fucking time I rewatch that fucking the woman who lived, I look at that the other guy, like the other like bandit thief guy, and go, this dude never fucking shows up again. What the fuck?
I know, we were so disappointed about that because we forgot that he's actually quite a treat. The exchange between him and the doctor is very good.
Yeah, it's yeah. So yeah, I will say, you know, the Seven Samurai bit with the doctor and all that is good, and the end plot basically being that they don't beat them in terms of strength, but they manage to prank them into doing something embarrassing and then be like, yeah, I'll post this on TikTok if you don't fucking get the fuck out of here, bitch.
we got receipts.
Yeah. L plus ratio plus you fell off plus I'm a Time Lord.
I do think I can't help but wonder how the reveal of 12 saying like, oh, this is where I got my face, cue David Tennant, because this...
Yeah, no, that was good. I got hit by that, honestly.
No, yeah,
Real talk.
It's a good explanation. I just can't help but wonder, like, what if we got that, like, at the beginning of the season? You'd have to, like, invent a reason why. But then I could see if he kept going on these adventures through, you know, Witch's Familiar and Under the Lake, whatever it's called. Like, if he kept going through these adventures and he kept failing to save people, I feel like that would have been a more effective build-up to have him feel like he's failing being the doctor that, like, 11 chose him to be, or, like, whatever excuse bullshit you want to make up for, like, why that's happening. Because it just feels like at the very end, when a shielder is, like, dying / dead, it's like, okay, we're gonna repeat the Waters of Mars, like, character beat with, like, no build-up.
Yeah, he just snaps right to it. And then, like, almost immediately after they leave goes, oh, fuck.
It's
I don't want to say there's no build-up, because there was kind of in Under the Lake Before the Flood. Because he sort of has a thing there where he like resolves to like break the rules. He's like, fuck it, I'm gonna leave, and then obviously it doesn't let him. So there's not much about him specifically like saving people per se, but there's definitely stuff leading up to this about like breaking the rules of time travel and how he's like sort of back on that beat that 10 was on about trying to push those rules again.
Sure, yeah. I'm not saying it's like completely broken, but I'm just saying for like to echo such a powerful character beat, as again, like people refer to it as, or I don't know if they do, but I refer to it as the Waters of Mars moment, like to repeat that and have it not be like as well thought out, like you can't help but compare the two and how one like obviously falls short of being as impactful as the others. Not to say it like doesn't logically make sense within the confines of this episode. It's just one of those moments where it's like, okay, we have a huge moment that like wasn't really like, again, could be nitpicking on my part. It's a fine moment, but it's just very funny how like there's almost like a post-time, like a post-nut clarity of like immediately afterward he's like, oh no, I shouldn't have done this.
Oh shit. Oh fuck, I can't believe I've done this.
Yeah.
I think it's
so.
Yeah.
I think it becomes more interesting if you consider it that he understood that beforehand. And even then his desire
did it anyways.
Yeah, I mean even then his desire to save her like overpowered his apprehension about that.
Yeah.
I think that makes it a more interesting beat.
Yeah. So yeah, I guess we get the really clunky hybrid drop that's just like, oh, like the hybrid drop. This is like I'm starting to see why people were like up in arms about that, because like in terms of clunkiness, it is as bad as the soldier shit.
Yeah,
It's real bad.
I know we kind of got tired from memory. We got tired of like the RTD like mystery box slash like name drop of like, what's this season's Bad Wolf, what's this season's Torchwood, what's this season's Mr. Saxon. But in all honesty, even if it's like always out in the open and it's basically ticking a mention box, at least it's more of a background setting thing that even if the episode isn't like that good, it still makes sense why that thing is there. I don't know. It's a difference in approach that I appreciate now in retrospect, because with the exception of like maybe series 5, all of Moffat's mystery box things have been about the Doctor or about a character that's like supposed to impact the Doctor, like it's River Song, or it's the hybrid, or it's, you know, soldiers, but like the soldier thing is like directly about 12 basically. It's just it, or it's, I guess, I don't know, Trenzalore, I guess.
Yeah,
but
Trenzalore.
Yeah, it's a difference in approach that like I'm sad Chibnall took it more in that direction instead of going back to like what's a background threat or theme, you know?
Yeah. I get that. So yeah, I guess we'll move on to The Woman Who Lived now. Let me pull up the transcript for that real quick. Yeah. So yeah, this episode, and I think you can like automatically tell like this episode really just immediately starts with like how it's going to feel, because we start off and like pretty much immediately we go right into like haha comedy like robbery bit, except that like in just a few bits it's about to like in just a minute it's going to like hard turn into like, oh fuck man, mode.
Yeah, I think the first half of this episode honestly slaps.
Yeah.
It's very good.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's pretty good.
I think it has a very good sort of aesthetic composition, and just, you know, it does emphasize the same like points a lot in regards to Lady Me, but I think they keep it fresh enough that for the sort of like first half of the episode, it continues to be engaging, that they keep sort of like returning to the same themes of like her forgetting and her like not being like the same person anymore, who, and being now someone who has just like forgotten all that she had in the previous episode.
Yeah.
You can tell this episode, I could tell why they got Maisie Williams, because, and I haven't watched all of Game of Thrones except the like first 2 seasons and the last one, which is a hilarious contrast, by the way. The talent of Maisie Williams to sort of be like, to like grow cold as like a younger looking actor, it's like it's very effective for seeing a character who was like so, I don't know, just like full of youthful energy in the last episode, be like almost like Doctor-esque in how like detached and mature and cold and how like older she seems. Like that was very, you couldn't get any actor of that age, even though Maisie Williams wasn't a child actor when she was doing this, you know, it's still it's still impressive to see that depth come across, and I definitely enjoyed delving into like the darkness and the I don't know, the grittiness, that sounds so larpy, but like really of this character and what they've suffered. I don't know, almost in a like way that touches upon how like Torchwood Jack is clearly much more like in touch about being immortal and tortured than like Doctor Who Jack was. So again, it was nice to touch into more of that, even though the latter half of the episode takes away some of that power.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So yeah, you know, like the moments of like yeah, and it puts forward a lot of really interesting ideas and all of that. And then it finally gets into the moment where she like asks him to take him along, and then it just feels, as I said, we get to the moment where he goes no, says because it wouldn't be good, and then refuses to elaborate. And it's just like, he does elaborate his point at the end of the episode after things have already happened, and it's like, you couldn't have just said that before?
Yeah, it's a bit of...
Especially because, like, what he says, too, like, what he says doesn't really feel like it's something where she'd necessarily listen to him anyway. So he could still totally say that and have her just, like, disagree with him. And then have, like, the moment later on where she realizes, like, how far she's fallen and gone, like, oh, shit, I actually do care.
Yeah. I think if done properly, this episode could be an interesting contrast between, like, where Shielder is at now and where Clara's going as a character. Because the second half is, like, Clara Light, which is pretty unusual for the 12th Doctor era up until this point. Because, like, in the first episode, there's a moment where she asks him, like, where Clara asks 12 what the rules are, like, how do you know, basically, what you can and can't do, like, when to save someone, when you can break the laws of time, and usually it comes off sort of as, like, you wouldn't understand, but in this instance, it was very much like, I don't trust you, is the vibes I got from that, like, I wouldn't trust you to know what to do with that knowledge. And
yeah,
I feel like a similar thing, if done correctly, could be like, I don't trust someone like you. I don't trust any immortal aside from me, because the Doctor is functionally immortal, especially post timeless child bullshit. But like, the idea that he doesn't trust anyone else to do what he's doing, could be like an interesting like thematic through line, but in this case it just again comes off as like how Jack talks about his immortality to 10. It's like, oh, so you're prejudiced. Like that's basically what it comes off as opposed to like any logic other than like, oh, the producers of the show say I can only have one companion right now, so no, you can't come with me.
Yeah. Absolutely. And then, you know, she basically turns on him to like be like, nah, I'm gonna help out Evil Lion Man here, who looks like a fucking extra like an extra from the last classic story with the cat people. Yeah.
It's just the episode just gets so much worse once he's introduced, because it just takes away from Mii's maturity, I think, just sort of retroactively.
Yeah. Yeah, it feels like it hits the brakes to be like, yeah, all right, we're going to do a normal Doctor Who episode now, and just kind of
Mm-hmm.
feels like it takes the floor out from underneath what they were setting up.
Yeah.
I think that this, I really do think that the episode could have possibly been better just without a villain whatsoever. It could have been good. It's just like,
Yeah, no, that's what I was, or if there was, maybe not like, maybe have a villain, but just don't do an alien plot.
yes, exactly.
Having that alien plot in there feels like oh well, we're Doctor Who, we gotta have something, even though like the premise is sci-fi enough. Just have it be a period episode. You can still have an antagonistic force, maybe some lords being a shithead like usual, and she's like, I don't care, until eventually like something happens and she finds out that she does care, or maybe she's still helping him because she's kind of graduated beyond morality and blah 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 blah. But the second you bring in like Lion Man, it feels like it kind of derails it back into silly Doctor Who-ness.
And again,
It's like just
yeah, I feel like I said in the previous recording of this episode, the one that aborted itself, I guess, that this arc feels very much like in a traditional like drama, I don't know, procedural show, like I don't know, like Lucifer, that there would be certain threads and certain characters that we could like drop and have a few more adventures and then pick up again. It's like this feels like this could be a really great conclusion to an arc that we kind of don't see. Like, I don't know, you could do a whole like theme about like the cycles of like living with trauma, because like a lot of what a shield or me, whatever, seems to deal with is like survivor's guilt and like forgetting the past people in her life and forgetting what she used to find enjoyable out of life. So like, I don't know, analogizing that to like trauma or something, that she's in sort of like the despair or anger phase. You know, we don't, again, we see that. I don't know, it's just like you gave this character such great depth and such a great actress, and then we see her 3 times. It's sort of like the River Song problem all over again, but just like with different, for a different reason, you know? That it's like you want us to be invested in this character and you advertise her as like important to the series, or at least the advertising, the marketing did. Again, this feels like it could have been like a human nature, family of blood scenario with like the darkness and the depth and of this character, but then lion people and silly jester man who makes jokes so people don't kill him. Like, it feels like half of it wants to start being Robots of Sherwood again, and you can't do that.
Yeah.
You can't do that with the first half of this episode.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just yeah. And then there's the Sam Swift, you know, the cocky bandit guy who's a little cool, but again, it's just like this dude doesn't fucking show up again. I'm not going to look up the answer because I want to find it out myself. But like, as far as I remember, they don't even fucking, I don't remember him ever being mentioned again.
Yeah, they don't, as far as I remember it either. And it's such a waste, in my opinion, because I do really think, like, he became a good character, and they set something up there with him, and then they just never do anything with it.
Yeah.
This is random really... Middle Eastern, formerly dead kid 2.0.
Yeah, basically. Yeah, it's just really fucking really odd. I don't Yeah. Um, and it's like then we don't, and also, if it goes on so much about how immortality is a curse or whatever, and like how she didn't necessarily ask for it, and then it's just resolved by doing the exact same thing again, but to a different person. It's like, what?
Yeah. Doctor Who's weird.
Doctor Who's so fucking weird.
It's such a weird structure for a show in general.
Yeah. Anyways. So yeah. That's about all I have to say on this one. So if you guys are ready to move on to ratings, so am I.
Let's do it.
All right. Yeah, it's two good. There's one good standalone episode and one kind of messy standalone episode. And put together, it just gets kind of weird. And yeah, it gets just kind of odd, and I don't really like. The first one I'd say is like a fairly solid like B plus A minus, and then the last one, the second one feels like a B minus, maybe even a C. It feels like there is just a point where it left turns and goes and drives off a cliff.
Yeah. Not in the good turn left kind of way either. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, again, this feels like they had like a general like series arc idea that involved this character, and then they were like, oh well, two-parters are our thing, so let's just do it this way. Again, it felt very like, I guess, traditional to the show's format, which, whatever. I think the first half, the first episode, The Girl Who Died, is definitely the stronger of the two. Even if it's not as like emotionally complex or as challenging at certain points, it does what it's doing fairly competently. Some minor character decisions aside. Not minor character decisions, major character decisions. And then the second episode starts off incredibly well, and then just kind of decides to be Robots of Sherwood light, I guess. Robots of Sherwood core. Yeah, very, very strange vibes. Again, this just feels like too many writers, too many cooks in the kitchen, basically. Just with everything going on. As individual stories, they're competent. As a set story, combined, they're weird, but I guess still competent. Within the structure of the overall series, I'm finding myself asking why. Maisie Williams deserves to be in better projects. I think is the main takeaway. But I'd give this overall arc it's a solid 7.
All right.
All right. I don't know. I think the first episode is just really solid. I think I wouldn't say it's the tightest thing, but it's a fun little story, and I think it does fun enough things with the Doctor. And I think the ultimate conclusion is interesting and has like it has interesting implications for the direction of the Doctor's character, where he's just sort of like more willing to mess with stuff to get the outcome he wants, and I think that is sort of setting up for stuff later in the season, particularly with the idea of like forcing the rules to save someone is going to be relevant later. So I think this is a good setup for that. Yeah, so alone I would give that episode maybe like an 8.5. And then the second episode, I think it has a really strong start, but it just sort of falls apart hard. I would say that's maybe like a 5.5 or something. Together I would probably say yeah, like a 7.
All right, fair enough. So yeah, next week we will be discussing the Zygon two-parter. That's gonna be cool. Excited for that. Until then, you can follow the podcast on Twitter at B2TARDISPod. You can support the podcast on Patreon for a number of benefits, such as early access to episodes, the ability to listen in live to episodes being recorded, and potentially even the ability to guest star upon an episode of your choosing. I'm Geoff. You can follow me on Twitter at WheatleyDL.
I am gay, and I'm partnering with Twitter for this Pride Month by being extra gay on the platform. I know it's not a good joke. Fuck you. You can
We had to re-record this episode.
yes.
Yeah.
Who gives a shit?
Yeah, no.
Womp womp.
It's yeah. You're lucky we're even here. No, but you can follow us on the twitter.com at of mice and femmes for all your mediocre gay shitposting needs.
I'm Ashter, and you can die.
Like Lady Me can't.
In Roblox.
And we will see you all next week.